Kenneth Leung，
聽到啦，聽到啦，呢度
Alan Leung，好啦，好啦。Alan Leung 呢度，
我喺度啦
Kenneth 呢度。
，Kenneth 嗰度。
明白，見到。打住份報告，之後首先係支持。
毓民會遲少少去錄影緊啊！
影咩去？
唔知啊，唔知係咪講波定咩啊？我哋
係。喂，或者
阿謝偉俊放假。
咁好啊！
阿Hak-kan嚟緊。
Hak-kan，
Hak-kan企過嚟呢邊啦，主席喺中間啦。
嗰邊好啲喎。主席喺中間啊。好。唔該，左手邊呢邊啦，唔該。
左手邊。
麻煩右手邊，唔該。
中間。左邊。
右邊啦，唔該。
右邊。
唔該晒，唔該晒，我哋
後邊使唔使影啊？唔使啦。OK。
歡迎大家今日嚟政府帳目委員會記者會。咁喺大家未場之前咧，我先請帳委會主席石禮謙議員咧。
好歡迎各位。
Welcome to this meeting. We are to speak on the PAC report number 62. There are 8 chapters in report 62 of the Director of Audit's report, and we have picked out 3 chapters for public hearing. I believe you have seen the report. It's a report on the MEF, the Mega Event Fund, on housing, and also on social enterprises. Mr. Poche is the leading member to look after the MEF, the Mega Events Fund, and he is on leave today, so I will speak on his behalf. The first chapter covers housing, and the lead member is Mr. Leung. And the other Mr. Leung is the lead member for studying social enterprises. We're happy to answer your questions. Paul Che is not here. We can answer your questions. I believe you are most concerned about the Mega Events Fund. Maybe. Let's do it one by one. Mr. Leung will have to attend another meeting at 10 to 4. Maybe you can first ask the Mega Fund, maybe. The Mega Funds first. Mega Events Fund first. And then followed by housing, and then followed by Chapter 7. So please give us your name and also your institution. First on the Mega Events Fund. If you want to ask other questions, please feel free to do so. Yes, concerning the Mega Events Fund, that is no name named. Mr. Chen Kam-lam, who was not named or criticized, and also the chairman of the assessment committee, Mr. Jeffrey Lam, was not named, nor was the chairman of the Lion and Dragon Dance group criticized. Who should take the responsibility? Who should answer the question? Maybe the chairman. We have not let anybody off the hook. We are open and fair and just. We had 5 meetings on the Mega Events Fund, and Mr. Chan Kam-lam gave evidence on 4 occasions. Mr. Lam, the chairman of the Mega Events Fund, came on all 5 occasions, and he also answered questions. All our questions were answered by them. In this report, we look at it as a government department. We also look at Mr. Koh Chi-sam. He was also invited to come along. We asked him many questions, and they answered our questions whether whether satisfactory concerning whether the students have been paid, concerning where the receipts are, and also items C1 and C2 and C3, they have not given us adequate information. It's not that they didn't give any information. They have explained that they didn't employ those people directly, and also they have given us the names in G4. We've looked into that, and then in the report, we criticize the commissioner, the tourism commissioner, and also the permanent secretary for their failure. We, in fact, criticized them rather seriously. They have not enforced the contract. They have not managed the contract well. Even if we haven't criticized Mr. Jeffrey Lam or Mr. Chan Kam-lam, in fact, we have put in quite a lot of meat in the report. With regard to Mr. Chan Kam-lam and Mr. Jeffrey Lam, they were mentioned in our report. We criticized Mr. Jeffrey Lam, who has been the chairman since 2009, and he was still reappointed for another 2 years after this event, this problem was exposed. And in the assessment committee, 6 out of 7 are old members. How can there be new blood? No wonder of the 24 items supported by the Mega Events Fund, only 6 were new. And as for international mega events, since 2012, not a single international mega event had been introduced. We have pointed out in the report. As for the organizer and applicant of the Lion and Dragon Dance Festival, Mr. Chan Kam-lam, in the whole investigation, we didn't pull any punch. We didn't pull any punches with regard to the laxity in doing his job, and also in not implementing the terms of the agreement. We have asked all our questions. Since the mega event, the Harbour Fest, the administration had not learned lesson. The CEDB and the Tourism Commission under it didn't seriously enforce the terms of agreements. With regard to those who applied, including Mr. Koh Chi-sam, Mr. Chan Kam-lam, the CEDB and the Tourism Commission didn't strictly require and follow the matter up, even if the applicants, as I mentioned, didn't comply with the terms. We didn't let anybody off the hook. If you look at our report carefully, item by item, after in the 5 hearings, we asked all the necessary questions. Perhaps Mr. Leung can add. I believe you've heard the questions and answers of the 5 open hearings. And you might have heard other reports as to whether anybody was really recruited or employed. Concerning the Lion Dragon Dance Festival, it was not an employment relationship. There were contractors and subcontractors. Information or documents were not adequate. And we do give serious criticisms against the CDB and also Tourism Commission for not enforcing the terms. Now, who has the duty and responsibility? The Tourism Commissioner has to enforce the terms, and we therefore express our grave dismay.
In our report, we have stated clearly that if there should be any amendments to the terms of the agreement, it is stipulated clearly that the parties concerned would need to obtain agreement from the Permanent Secretary and the Commission, but none of them had done this. So this is a very serious problem, and we've also spelled this out in the report. Mr. Chair, I'd like to supplement 2 points. As the chairman said, I think we conducted the hearing from a value for money perspective to find out in terms of the system, resource allocation, and the spending of public funds whether or not that have been any irregularities. You may challenge that we have been too lenient with one of our colleagues, and that is not true. The colleagues that we know and even members of our party, I think actually before the hearing and also when we drafted this report, we had disclosed our interests. You would also see that the public had queries about the operations of the MEF, and our colleagues had followed up on those from different perspectives. So the outcome today is represent the unanimous decision of the PAC, and our unanimous, view regarding the MBF. Next question, Economic Journal. Mr. Chen Kam-lam, when being interviewed earlier, said that he was not personally being criticized because he didn't have to bear any responsibility. Do you agree with the response he gave? If he doesn't have the that responsibility, of course, he would not need to do that. I hope I've answered your question. TVB. I'll ask the question from a different angle. In the course of your investigation, since you found out, you've decided that ultimately it should be the CDB and the Tourism Commission who should be ultimately responsible. How can you conclude that Jeffrey Lam and Chen Kam-lam doesn't need to be, you don't need to use the term, extreme regret in respect of these two persons? Well, when they, we've actually gave them harsh criticisms in the report, but in the report we stated the facts. After we've obtained the evidence, we studied those evidence, and our responsibility, we found out that the government department had not properly supervised or enforced the terms of their agreement, and they have also not done their work properly. For example, they have not properly vetted the financial information. And among the 6 staff in the MEF, none of them have accounting experience like the colleague who is sitting next to me. So since 2009 until recently, they have not thoroughly vetted the way the funds have been spent from a value for money angle. But they did not fully fund all the MBF events. For the past which they funded, there were restrictions on which type of projects should be organized, who should be responsible for promotion. As far as the recruitment of people, it was not their responsibility. It was not the responsibility of the Tourism Commission, but they had the responsibility to monitor the accounts. But like Mr. Leung said, they didn't do their work seriously, and where there were discrepancies, they didn't check them, and there is no evidence that they've asked any such questions. So you have. So what responsibility do you think Jeffrey Lam and Chen Kam-lam should bear? I think anyone responsible for spending public funds should be responsible. But some take C4 for example, which is the 2014 Big Buddha. The dragon dance became the Big Buddha dance. Initially, they claimed that they were going to hire more than 3,000 temporary staff. But eventually, after we have checked, they were able to verify that they only hire 1,310 people. Should we criticize him in the light of this event? Well, the objective is not to hire people, but rather to promote Hong Kong internationally. And if they have achieved that target, and also deductions have been made from the funds dispersed. So it was not their personal responsibility, but rather there were some flaws in the enforcement of the project, and they had to be responsible. But in the report and in the questions we asked, we've already gave a lot of criticisms. Mr. Leung, Chairman, we are now we have drafted the report of PAC. Each and every time we need to identify a controlling officer to find out whether or not he has or she has properly dispersed public funds properly, because this is one way that we should hold the. So we are particularly focused at the controlling officer, the Permanent Secretary of CEDB, and the Tourism Commission and Deputy Commissioner. But in order to clap, you need both hands. So the chairman and other members have pointed out that, for example, Mr. Chen Lam had organized the Lion and Dragon Dance for 4 years. In the retention of documents and making reports to the Mega Event Committee, all the omissions have been highlighted in the course of the inquiry. And because of these omissions, and the controlling officer had not enforced not really enforced the terms of the agreement and did not follow the rules. It's because of that we've come to our conclusion. Regarding the controlling officer who failed to fully discharge his public duties, and the fact that he needs to be accountable to LegCo, we have expressed our regret. We have expressed our regret in respect of these controlling officers on the basis that, as we pointed out, Mr. Chen Kam-lam, Mr. Ko Chi-sam, we've already pointed out what were the responsibilities. Regarding Mr. Jeffrey Lam, I think his only responsibility is that he should not have accepted the appointment, but that is not part of the value for money audit. We can only criticize the controlling officer. That is, they failed to actually introduce Tier 1 international mega events. And out of the 24 events, only 6 were brand new events. Only then can we ask the controlling officer from the perspective we asked, why did you continue to appoint Mr. Jeffrey Lam if there were no new ideas? Of the 7 members, 6 have been serving members, and there had not been any new events. Why you shouldn't have introduced new blood? But then the so-called new blood means that there were only 6 incumbent, members and only 1 new member. So the controlling officer is Mr. Wong, the permanent secretary. Another point I'd like to also bring out is that in 2010, the mega event had invited the anti-corruption department of the ICAC to conduct a study. In its study, the ICAC the Anti-Corruption Advisory Committee, I think 2 of its members suggested or asked whether or not the mega event should be continued, because the mega events were launched in the aftermath of the SARS epidemic. In 2011, our economy had already improved, so there was doubt as to whether or not we need to continue with the mega events. In this report, we pointed out that 2 of the members of the ICAC committee had raised this concern, but the CEDB had studied that recommendation. But in 2012, they came to LegCo to apply for another $150 million to expand the MBF, and they did not go to the FC. They explained that this was a policy issue, and we're not satisfied with that answer. We believe that it's not only a policy issue, and that LegCo has a duty to monitor the work of government departments, and that they should go to the FC and put forward such a proposal. So we did, criticize them very harshly.
RTHK. Sorry, speakers not coming through.
About the ICAC report, is it your committee's thinking that this mega events fund is just too much trouble, that we should just review its purpose and whether we need to continue funding it?
No, it's not our view. I was just expressing a view that upon the invitation of the Mega Fund Event Committee, that they have invited ICAC anti-corruption section to do some study, and the report was submitted to the advisory panel of anti-corruption. So one or 2 members actually suggested that it's high time for the government to review whether the mega fund should be continued, to the extent that since the establishment of the mega fund time was inappropriate, because now economic conditions is actually much improved. In terms of the employment figure have gone down substantially. But in their application to extend the fund with a request for $150 million in their submission to FC, the Finance Committee, they have purposely withdrawn this aspect of the recommendation by ICAC, and that we found it wanting, and we criticized them as inexcusable. They explained that this was a policy matter. We see it differently.
Anyone else? Now, concerning the evidence given by Mr. Chan Kam Lam, do you think Mr. Chan Kam Lam is an honest witness? And also about traveling expenses, I think he is contradicting himself. He sometimes say yes, sometimes say no, and the students say that they do not receive any traveling expenses. Mr. Leung, I have looked into this question very carefully, and I have asked Mr. Lam this question very seriously. As for the relationship between the organizing body and the sports associations, This is just a contractual relation. The sports association is just the contractor. We have to consider whether the amount is reasonable. The organizing body has no employment relationship with the students involved, and therefore we cannot make any direct criticism. Now, they are a service, the sports associations are service providers, and they have employed the performers. The relationship between the organizer and the performers, there is no direct relationship. You might have read reports that the organizer or organizing body recruited the staff directly. That was not the case. But it doesn't mean that they don't have the responsibility to report to the MEF. Mr. Leung can speak on this. The controlling officer, i.e. the Tourism Commissioner, and also the CEDB, should enforce the terms of the funding agreement. Say, for example, the problem with the accounts. We asked why in the Lion and Dragon Dance 2014, why more time was required to provide a report. We did ask the question. Now we do the value for money report. We want to, if we are to hold people responsible, basically the controllers are civil servants. Why Chen Kam-lam is the responsible person of the Lion and Dragon Dance Festival, Lion Dragon Dance Festival, and there is some apparent ambiguity there, and why we don't ask for the accounts and receipts. Now we have already put down our conclusion concerning the matter. Now as for the ICAC, if you may refer to paragraph 21, upon the request of the committee, the Permanent Secretary provided the a report of the ICAC in 2011 and also 2010. The letter is also the letter given to the Tourism Commission is also attached. That is only an English version. There is no Chinese translation to that letter. Now the matter is very simple. Since the Corruption Prevention Division has made such a proposal concerning, in fact, two members made such a point. Since SARS was already under the far away from us, and there were problems of managing the accounts, it's better to give the money, give the balance back. So the fund should be folded up according to this view. The administration confirmed that in 2012, Mr. Wong confirmed that in 2012, when the administration asked for $150 million for the MEF, the administration did look into the letter provided by the CPAC, Corruption Prevention Advisory Committee of the ICAC. The administration did look into whether the MEF should be kept and further inject fund, or there should be further fund injection. Our view is that the letter on the 15th of May 2010 should have been given to the FC. When the FC decided on whether to give the money or not, $150 million or not, the FC should have been informed that two members of the CPAC of the ICAC made such a point. It wasn't SARS, it was 2007, the financial tsunami. And then there was the mega fund in 2009. The Harbour Fairs was related to SARS, and I made a mistake. My apologies. Is he an honest witness? We ask questions and he answered the questions. Whether he is honest or not, you better ask himself.
All right, I know you've already answered this question in Chinese, but regarding responsibility for the mismanagement of the MEF, you mentioned the CEDB and the Tourism Commission. But what about Chan Kam-lam and Jeffrey Lam? They were obviously involved in a number of areas where there was misconduct, but it doesn't seem that you are personally finding them liable for their actions. Will they be held responsible, or what is the case? Are they not personally responsible? Is that what you're saying?
I have directed I've actually asked Ellen to reply that question in Chinese. You'd like to continue?
Yes, with pleasure, Chairman. The Public Accounts Committee looks to responsible officers to answer to the Legislative Council on public spending. And therefore, in a value for money audit, we look for controlling officers who are responsible for controlling the use of the fund. And of course, in this particular instance of mega fund, we are looking to the CEBD and also to the Tourism Commissioner as controlling officers. Of course, the Honourable Chen Kam-lam and the Honourable Jeffrey Lam, they left something to be desired in their respective roles in applying for the mega fund, in running 4 events from 2011, and also in managing the vetting committee. But they are not the controlling officers, and therefore, naturally, when the Public Accounts Committee is making our report, we would be directing our criticisms to the controlling officers. But in the course of doing so, it is all over the report that the failures of the controlling officers were borne out by the actions and inactions of both the Honourable Chen Kam-lam and the Honourable Jeffrey Lam. I hope I've answered your question.
Actually, you asked whether they failures. Yes, they do have failures, to the extent that they have failed to return documents which are required under the agreement when they apply for the mega fund in the case of Mr. Chen, which he has actually given only in the last year, 2014 year, the C4. He has given a list of names but without the details of who received what and how much. In the event of C1, C2, C3, that's, no name list were given. So again, that is a situation which the controlling officers should have asked and demand. But now we have actually asked, we have actually demanded, but because of the time difference that a lot of documents have been lost, not only just with Mr. Chen, is also in event G by Mr. Goh Ji-sum. They have completely lost all documents. But in the contract and in the agreement, they are supposed to keep the documents for 7 years. But that, again, the controlling officer have failed in their duty to do this. So our relationship is between Legislative Council and the administration. And in this case, the administration's controlling officers was the Permanent Secretary and the Tourism Commissioner of Commerce and the Department. Commerce and Industry Department at the Bureau.
不如盛事機問多2條，我哋就去下一個題目啦，好嘛？
You can allow 2 more questions regarding the MEF, and then we'll go on to the next item. Oriental Daily and then Cable. Thank you. Since there were so many irregularities regarding the accounts of the MEF, the CPAC had already suggested in 2010 that within the MEF didn't have any, should not continue with its operation. So do you think that we need to dispense the MEF? Well, that is not within the ambit of the PAC. And if need be, the panel may need to consider this. Secondly, the ICAC did not suggest that no mega event should be staged, but it only suggested that in 2000, it made that point in 2009. When the application was made in 2012, the situation has changed because earlier the unemployment rate was very high, and we needed to organize more such events so that more people would come and visit Hong Kong, so that more jobs could be created for the people of Hong Kong. But back in 2012, the situation was different. But Mr. Wong, the Permanent Secretary, had explained that in 2012, when they look at these projects, they did not look at them from the creation of jobs angle, but rather whether or not these events could promote Hong Kong's international profile. So to answer your question, I think this question should be put to the panel. Cable? Chairman, if I may also supplement. What I'm going to say does not represent the PAC, but as a legislator, I'm going to, this is my personal opinion. I think the MBF should not have existed for a long time because there's no need to organize mega events now. In the course of our inquiry, we have found that the Tourism Commission had not really discharged its duties seriously in organizing the mega events, and given that the Council were not were not clear, and out of 26 events, only 6 were new, and there had not been any successful international mega events. Personally, as a legislative councillor, I believe that the mega event fund should cease its operation. Raymond Wong? Well, the PAC conducted its inquiry from the value for money perspective. The public can make a judgment based on our report. As a legislator and not a member of the MEC, I fully agree with Mr. Alan Leung. When we ask questions during the inquiry, we've already stated our position. Basically, the mega event should have been folded a long time ago. Mr. Leung, the PAC's looks at whether the controlling officer had effectively made good use of public funds. Whether or not we should dispense with the fund is not what we need to look at in the report. Personally, when I talked to Mr. Alan Leung about the operation of such funds and that it has been so sloppily, managed, and many of the terms of the agreement were not really kept, the question is whether there is any value in retaining the MBF. So I would agree with Mr. Alan Leung and Mr. Raymond Wong's observation that the MBF should have been, abolished a long time ago. So we wrote a report from the value for money perspective. After reading the report, we should be, looking at the future. And if there's any suggestion as to whether or not there are issues that we need to further pursue, we'll be happy to ask those questions on your behalf. Last question, Cable. Just now, to some extent, you admitted that after conducting so many hearings, you agreed that Mr. Jeffrey Lam should, show some responsibility. But he was reappointed for another 2 years in June this year. So, as far as the PAC is concerned, how effective has the PAC been in discharging its duty of monitoring the administration? I'd like to declare that I belong to the same party as Mr. Jeffrey Lam. I think this is a government policy, and in the value for money audit, this is not a question. Well, I think it is administration which appointed Mr. Jeffrey Lam, and not the PAC. So we need to draw the line very clearly. If the government wants to reappoint him, the government will need to give a justification. I think the government also has a duty there. As whether or not Mr. Lam has performed poorly, so that the mega fund had suffered heavy losses. We would not been able to identify them. Whether or not he could have done better, or of course everyone can do better. For the first event since 2012, there had never been any new international mega event to highlight Hong Kong's international profile, although they've been given 100 million. As whether or not they've done the level best, I can see that they have. But in enforcing the terms of the agreement, they had, to some extent, been negligent or not vigilant enough, and this has been clearly stipulated in our report. But in criticizing any officer, we need a lot of evidence. We need to be fair and just. So, Mr. Leung would also like to supplement. Regarding the government's appointment of the members of such advisory committees and statutory bodies, of course we can follow up on this discussion in the relevant panels. Regarding Mr. Jeffrey Lam, and I'm making a personal opinion here, if Mr. Jeffrey Lam, if the chairman also found him to have some shortcomings, I think the government appointed Jeffrey Lam simply because he doesn't want somebody else to clean up the mess, and that's why they continued to appoint Mr. Lam. And this is not something that the PHC should look at or take in consideration in this report. We're not saying that he had inadequacies. I only said that he could have done, he could certainly have done better. Right. We'll now move on to Chapter 1 of the report, which is on public housing, and Mr. Leung will answer your questions. Public housing. If none of you have read that report, I'd like to explain to you the long-term housing strategy. The long-term public housing strategy suggests that 200,000 units will be built in the next 10 years. In report number 61, the part regarding public housing, and also report number 62, in both reports, we said that given the public housing it's very important for those who are on the public housing waiting list. It can help improve people's living environment. So in our report, we said clearly that the government should fulfill this obligation as stated in the long-term housing strategy. That is, but until 2013 in our report, we pointed out that they have actually surrendered 24 sites earmarked for the building of public housing. On the one hand, they are building PRH units, and they promised that people will be given PRH in 3 years, and they'll fail to do that because of the lack of land. So it's important that and instead they release the land for the construction of private property. Well, in the long-term housing strategy, the proposal was that in the long term, every year from 2013 to 2033, within these 10 years, the administration will provide a total of 200,000 PRH units. If you look at the Housing Department and the Housing Authority's supply projection, we only get the figure of 160,000, so there is a shortfall.
Have urged the Housing Department, Housing Authority to find as much land as possible to achieve the target. The chairman mentioned 24 sites. In fact, those 24 sites could have been used for public housing development, but for one reason or another, the Housing Authority gave the sites back. Not just gave the sites back, they spent money, formed the site, spent $300 million, and then returned the sites to the administration and obtained other pieces of land, but those new pieces of land are not for public housing. Or rather, these sites have been given back to the government and not for public housing. The Housing Department has conducted investigation on 22 housing estates with the age of more than 40 years. Whether they will implement redevelopment, I think a decision has to be made ASAP. Chairman, even if there is no question, I can say something on that. This number 62 report is the extension of number 61 report. In number 61, we discuss how the housing authority managed its existing assets. The Director of Audit, in the auditing process, looked at some internal documents of the housing authority. They estimated that in the coming 5 years, they might not be able to achieve the target of a 3-year waiting time. From 2011 to 2003, the Housing Authority was forced to return 24 formed sites back to the administration for sale. Now, there is a need to maintain the 3-year waiting target. There is a need to build adequate public housing. There is also the need to manage existing assets, how you deal with the overcrowding, how you deal with the well-off tenants, and also the underutilized units. There is also the issue of efficiency in putting up buildings, so that the buildings are put up on time. In the Director of Audit report, a criticism was made that progress for some building projects was slower than expected. Our report is to help citizens to watch over the issue of public housing, and the waiting time should be reasonable. Last time, we looked at managing existing assets of the Housing Authority. This time, we put emphasis on continuous land supply and efficiency in construction. These are two major points. Wang Yongman? No. Okay, then we move on to Chapter 7 on social enterprises. Mr. Alan Leung is the lead member. With regard to social enterprises, the most important issue is this. The administration has put in quite a lot of resources to help social enterprises, but the outcome was not desirable. We've seen that the administration just regards social enterprises as a welfare business or welfare matter. They are not regarded as an important element in the economy. The administration even shied away from defining what a social enterprise is. Without the definition, how can you have a policy to assist social enterprises? In our report, you may have noticed that concerning our comment on Mr. Zhang Duxing, who is the controlling officer, he has made new and innovative suggestions and new perspectives in his blog. Now he says that he wants to promote the development of social enterprises so that Hong Kong become a place which is conducive to nurturing social entrepreneur and innovations. We have high hopes of his vision. He has commissioned a research study, and we hope that before the end of this year, the report will be made available, and the recommendations will make the administration to conduct a complete overhaul and rethinking of the role of social enterprises. In overseas countries where there are more successful social enterprise policies, some aspects of such policies can be implemented in Hong Kong so that some of the social problems in Hong Kong can be solved by the involvement of entrepreneurs who have made a fortune and who would like to contribute themselves in solving social problems. Any further questions? If not, then please go back and read our report, and if need be, just ask us, just put your questions to us, and we are happy to answer your questions. Thank you.